From California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For nearly 20 years, electricity demand in the U.S. has barely moved, but that era is over. Today, we're facing the potential for electricity demand to grow up to fivefold. Meeting this energy demand will be a challenge, and the environmental laws of the 1970s were built for defense. But the environmental imperative of today is to build, and that's why we need permitting reform. But that doesn't just mean building pipelines and gas plants, but also wind, utility-scale solar, and interregional high-voltage electric transmission. All of the above, like President Obama used to say, all of the above, like my Republican colleagues used to openly say, at least before November of last year. I was glad to see Chair Westerman introduce and advance the SPEED Act, because reforming NEPA, the most litigated environmental law in the books, is necessary if we're going to make America competitive and if we're going to protect our environment. And there are many important reforms in this bill, and I want to note that. That's why earlier this month, I led a letter with 30 of my Democratic colleagues, outnumbering the members of the Freedom Caucus we saw on the floor this week, but explaining our support for reform and exactly what we needed to get more Democrats to yes on speed. At the top of that list is permit certainty, which the ranking member has already mentioned. If you apply for a permit for a project that complies with the law, you should be able to get that permit and you should be able to rely on it. Thoughtful permitting reforms, many of which are in the SPEED Act, are meaningless if the executive branch is allowed to revoke issued permits for no good reason, or if the permitting process can be subjected to political gamesmanship. The language added to the SPEED Act at markup would have restricted some of the political interference with issued permits, and that was a great start to solving the problem. It wasn't everything we needed, but it was a lot, and I was confident that a bipartisan bill was well within reach. And I was really disappointed this week that some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, after seeing that good bipartisan progress, decided to force this bill in the other direction this week to satisfy grievances and score political points instead of what's best for the country. And all of the above energy strategy is what we were after. That took a big hit this week. Giving Donald Trump or any president the ability to decide what gets permitting reform, which would be the effect of the partisan amendment added to the SPEED Act, behind closed doors, significantly reduces certainty for investment in America. That provision codifies a broken permitting status quo instead of setting a level playing field for everyone. Energy producers, investors, and communities want to know that investment in America, regardless of the electrons powering that investment, is safe from the swing of the political pendulum. And unfortunately, that goal has not yet been achieved. We need to get permitting reform done in this Congress. I look forward to working with my colleagues across the aisle in the Senate to craft a bipartisan product that can become law. This is not the final draft, and there's more work to do. I yield back.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas.